Imagine a reality where aging is nothing more than a distant memory, a place where the faces of those you have lost return to you, not as they were when they departed, but in the full strength and vitality of their prime. This is not the premise of a fantasy novel. It is the documented testimony of a man named Arthur Ford at the precise moment his own body was failing him. During a severe illness that brought him to the threshold of death, he experienced something that defied all biological laws. After leaving his physical body, he found himself in a vibrant green valley. And then he saw them, people he knew and loved, walking towards him. But they were impossibly transformed. Relatives who had died in old age now appeared young, their faces free from the lines of time. And friends who had been lost in childhood now stood before him as mature, fully grown adults. What Arthur Ford witnessed was a temporal paradox, an observation so profound it suggests that our true identity is not bound to the linear progression of time. This single experience doesn't just challenge our ideas about the afterlife, it presents a stunning piece of evidence. It suggests that consciousness, once freed from its physical shell, reverts to a state of timeless, ageless perfection. This investigation doesn't just ask what happens after we die. It asks, who are we truly beneath the mask of age? To understand the weight of this testimony, we must first understand the man who gave it. Arthur Ford was not a lifelong mystic seeking otherworldly visions. He was a minister, a lecturer, and by the mid-20th century, one of the most well-known psychic mediums in America. But his fame did not shield him from the physical realities of life. For years, he suffered from a debilitating heart condition, a consequence, as he himself admitted, of an exhausting and demanding lifestyle. This constant confrontation with his own mortality shaped his perspective. He wasn't looking at death from a safe, theoretical distance. He was living on its very doorstep. When the critical moment finally arrived, his doctors offered no hope for recovery. His family was told he would not survive the night. This was not a man seeking a spiritual journey. He was a man facing biological annihilation. His experience was not born from faith or desire, but from the raw, undeniable reality of his own body shutting down. This is crucial because it means his observations were not those of a hopeful believer, but of a grounded individual providing a witness report from the very edge of existence. Ford's public life was a paradox. He was a figure of both renown and intense scrutiny, a man who claimed to bridge the worlds for others, from grieving families to notable public figures. For decades, he had acted as a kind of cartographer, sketching maps of the afterlife based on the dispatches he said he received from those who had already crossed over. This work placed him at the center of the greatest debate of all, the survival of consciousness. But this public role makes his private, final journey all the more critical. He wasn't just reporting on a distant land anymore. His own consciousness was now being pulled into that uncharted territory. After a lifetime of interpreting echoes from the beyond, he was about to hear the source of the signal directly. He was no longer just the mapmaker. He was becoming the explorer. This transforms his testimony from a mere psychic reading into the ultimate field report. Arthur Ford's physical life ended in January of 1971. But for our investigation, this is not the end of his testimony. It is the beginning of the most crucial piece of evidence. 14 years later, in 1985, a series of credible mediums began receiving communications attributed to Ford. When asked to describe his new existence, the message was articulate and stunning. He explained that after a period of life review and orientation, he was given a choice not about where to go, but about what to be. He revealed that he had consciously chosen the appearance of a man of 45 years. This was not vanity. He explained that this form represented the perfect balance of his soul's journey, the vigor of youth combined with the wisdom of experience. In that spiritual realm, he stated, there is no biological clock. There is no decay. The body he now inhabited was not a static memory of his earthly self, but a fluid, direct expression of his inner state, his true essence. He described the physical body as a temporary heavy vehicle, subject to the rigid laws of time and decay. The spiritual body, however, is different. It is pure consciousness given form, a form that is malleable, responsive, and shaped not by genetics, but by the will and the wisdom of the soul itself. This single revelation recontextualizes everything. It means the aging process is not a fundamental law of life. It is a localized condition of physical existence. Ford called this new form the beta body. He argued that our cultural obsession with our 5 physical senses makes it difficult to even conceive of this reality. We are trained to believe that what we can see and touch is all that is real. But Ford's report suggests our primary body is not physical at all. It is a body of subtle energy, an idea that resonates with the concept of the Sukshma Sharira in ancient Vedic philosophy. According to these traditions, the soul is cloaked in several layers of being. The outermost layer is the Annamaya Kosha, the food sheath, or the physical body. It is temporary, sustained by material substance, and destined to perish. But beneath it lies a more permanent energetic body. This is the vehicle of mind and intellect, the blueprint of our personality that persists across lifetimes. Ford's post-mortem testimony was not just an anecdote. It was an experiential confirmation of this ancient metaphysical science. He was describing a state where consciousness is no longer filtered through a decaying biological machine, but is free to manifest its own intrinsic nature. The question is no longer, do we survive death, but in what form do we thrive? If what Arthur Ford experienced and reported is true, then the implications are staggering. It fundamentally changes our relationship with life, loss, and our own identity. First, it suggests that our fear of death is largely a fear of annihilation, of decay, of becoming nothing. But Ford's testimony paints a different picture. It reframes death not as an end, but as a liberation, a release from a physical form that is programmed to fail, into an existence where our form is a direct reflection of our immortal consciousness. This single idea has the power to dismantle our deepest existential dread. Second, it forces us to reconsider who we are. We spend our lives identifying with the face in the mirror, watching it change, age, and wither. We attach our sense of self to a biological process, but if our true form is a timeless, vital state that we return to, then our earthly appearance is nothing more than a temporary costume. This means your true self is not the aging body you inhabit, but the eternal consciousness that is merely having a temporary human experience. If this is the case, then every moment we live is a chance to cultivate the self that will persist. The kindness, the wisdom, the love we develop are not just abstract virtues. They are the very substance from which our eternal form will be shaped. This revelation isn't about the future. It's a call to action in the present. It asks a profound question. If your consciousness is the sculptor of your eternal self, what kind of masterpiece are you creating right now? This perspective also revolutionizes our experience of grief. When we mourn a loved one, we are mourning the loss of their physical presence, often remembering them in the fragility of their final days. But Ford's evidence suggests this memory is a fleeting snapshot, not the eternal reality. Imagine knowing that the grandparent you lost to old age is not locked in that state of infirmity, but has returned to the strength and clarity of their prime. Imagine that the friend lost to a sudden illness is not defined by that tragedy, but is now more vibrant and alive than ever before. This doesn't erase the pain of separation, but it transforms it. It shifts grief from a mourning of what was lost to a celebration of what has been liberated. It suggests that our loved ones haven't just passed on, they have been restored. They are waiting for us not in a state of decay, but in a state of perfection, a truth that could rewrite the entire emotional landscape of human loss. As the communications with Ford continued, the investigators pushed for more detail. They wanted to understand the mechanics of this transformation. How exactly does a soul choose its form? Is it a conscious thought like selecting an outfit? Is there a catalogue of possible appearances? This is where the linear, human language of the communications began to break down. Ford's responses became less descriptive and more metaphorical. He reportedly explained that the process is not an intellectual choice, but a natural settling. He compared it to a musical note finding its perfect resonance. The soul, once freed from the dense static of the physical world, automatically vibrates at the frequency of its most authentic self. The resulting form is not a decision, but a consequence, a law of spiritual physics. When pressed further to describe the feeling of this state, the transcripts simply note a pause. The essence of the message that followed was this: it is a knowledge so profound that our language collapses when it tries to contain it. We are not a single age. We are all our ages, all our experiences, held in a single luminous moment. I was shown, but I cannot speak it directly. This is the edge of the map, the point where testimony ends and pure mystery begins. This limit of knowledge is not a failure of the testimony. it is one of its most powerful authenticators. In genuine mystical experiences, there is always a point where the witness confronts the ineffable, a reality so vast it cannot be packaged into human grammar. Think of it like trying to describe the color blue to a person born blind. You can use analogies, the sky, the ocean, but you can never convey the actual experience of the color. Ford's hesitation suggests he was facing a similar barrier. He was attempting to translate a multi-dimensional reality into a three-dimensional language. The idea of being all our ages at once is a paradox that shatters our linear perception of time. It suggests that in the spiritual realm, our life is not a straight line from birth to death, but an ever-present sphere of experience. Every moment, every version of ourselves, the child, the adolescent, the adult, exists simultaneously within the soul's memory. The form the soul assumes is simply the focal point, the perfect center of gravity for all that we have ever been and learned. It is a concept that challenges not just what we know, but how we know. If this evidence is so compelling, why isn't it common knowledge? The answer lies in the dominant scientific paradigm of our time, materialism, the belief that matter is the only reality, and that consciousness is nothing more than a byproduct of brain chemistry. From this perspective, Ford's experience can only be one thing: a hallucination, a trick of a dying brain, starved of oxygen, firing random signals as it shuts down. Mainstream science has attempted to dismiss the entire field of near-death experience research with this single, simplistic explanation, but they have never been able to explain one critical fact: the consistency of the data. If these were mere hallucinations, they would be random, chaotic, and culturally specific. Instead, for centuries, from all corners of the globe, the reports remain stunningly consistent. People describe the same tunnel, the same being of light, the same life review, and most importantly for our investigation, they consistently report seeing loved ones in a restored, ageless state. This is where we introduce the work of Dr. Bruce Greyson. As one of the leading NDE researchers in the world, he has collected and analyzed thousands of cases. His data confirms that the ageless pattern witnessed by Ford is not an anomaly. It is a statistically significant, cross-cultural phenomenon. People consistently meet deceased relatives not as they looked when they died, but in their prime. The materialist explanation fails because it cannot account for this shared, structured, and coherent reality. It is not just one man's brain misfiring. It is thousands of people across time and culture, all reporting back from the same seemingly objective place, a place where the laws of biology no longer apply. The paradigm's greatest challenge is not Dr. Greyson's modern data, but the historical record. The consistency of these reports stretches back centuries, long before the invention of modern medical resuscitation techniques. Consider the case of Emanuel Swedenborg. In the 18th century, Swedenborg was one of Europe's leading scientists and inventors, a man of logic and reason. Yet, in his 50s, he began to have profound spiritual experiences, claiming he could freely explore the afterlife. In his extensive writings, published long before Arthur Ford was even born, Swedenborg described the same phenomenon with startling precision. He wrote, "I have spoken with people who lived centuries ago, and all looked like people of middle age. All those who had grown old in the earthly world returned to heaven and were young again." How could a Swedish scientist in the 1700s and an American medium in the 1900s describe the exact same, counterintuitive reality? There was no cultural cross-pollination. This is not a shared delusion. It is a pattern of independent verification across centuries. The resistance to this evidence is not based on a lack of data, but on a philosophical refusal to consider that consciousness might be more fundamental than the brain that observes it. Now that you have seen this evidence, you cannot unsee it. The pattern is clear. From the personal testimony of Arthur Ford, to the vast data sets of Dr. Bruce Greyson, to the historical accounts of Emanuel Swedenborg, the message is the same. We are not our bodies. We are immortal consciousness, wearing a temporary biological costume. Aging, it seems, is not a sentence but a lesson, and death is not an ending but a graduation, a return to our true, timeless form. This knowledge is not meant to make us passive, waiting for a perfect future. It is a tool for the here and now. It empowers us to live with less fear, to love with more urgency, and to see every person not for the temporary state of their body, but for the eternal, ageless soul that resides within. If this investigation has expanded your sense of what is possible, leave a like, not for any algorithm, but as a simple signal that says, "My mind is open." This is the great exploration of our time, the final frontier of human discovery. Subscribe if you're ready to investigate the next piece of this cosmic puzzle with us. The journey has only just begun.